Welcome to the Visionary Chronicles, a podcast dedicated to uncovering the strategies and insights that drive innovative, disruptive businesses. Join us as we explore the mindsets, cultures, and solutions powering the next generation of industry leaders and creative trailblazers. Whether you're seeking to inject new life into your organization or spark transformative growth, the Visionary Chronicles is your guide to executable, cutting-edge business strategy. Welcome to the Visionary Chronicles. Thanks for being with me again today. As always, very much appreciated. I know your time's valuable, so hopefully you'll find today's podcast useful. And that's always the goal, and hopefully you've found that to be the case as you've listened to the Visionary Chronicles. Today we're going to talk a little bit further on the new book I released. I'm proud to say, by the way, that the Visionary Leader, the Success Principles of the World's Greatest Visionaries, has hit Amazon #1 business category list. So I'm proud to say that. It's very quick. It's amazing with Amazon. If you published a book, to hit that number one's very hard. Trust me. We did a lot of work in behind the scenes prior to the release of the book on June 30th of this year. So we're very proud to say that we did hit the category list #1 again. We did that with the Visionary brand, my first book. So thank you to all who supported its launch and success, really, throughout the past several months. But I'll say the past several years, actually, because it's been about 2 years since I wrote the Visionary brand. And this is the second in a series of books that I'm going to be writing, which is the first being the Visionary brand, the second being the Visionary Leader, and the third is going to be the Visionary product. And then I'm going to do the master course in the final book calling Becoming Visionary. So today we're going to talk, as I've been talking about the last few weeks, we're still in chapter number 2. Today, we're going to talk a little bit more in depth on I got that mixed up there. Albert Einstein, not Thomas Edison. So today we're talking about Albert Einstein. We're going to talk about this visionary who I actually profile in chapter 2. So we're going to talk about Beyond Genius. And he's an interesting character. When I was doing the background research on Albert Einstein, it was amazing. You know, most people think EMC squared, obviously that was a great equation and formula that he came up with, but he's so much more. So hopefully I can just give you a little bit in the time that I have with you today of what this extraordinary visionary accomplished over his lifetime. So I'm going to talk about Beyond Genius, Einstein's vision that transformed everything. So again, welcome to the Visionary Chronicles podcast, where we continue our review of chapters in my new best-selling book, business leadership book, The Visionary Leader. And today we're going to dive deep into the mind of what I'll say perhaps the history's most celebrated scientific visionary, Albert Einstein. You know his name. You probably know the image of Einstein as this kind of iconic, wild-haired photograph, but do you really understand what made Einstein a visionary leader? I get that question now that he's in the book. Like, what made Einstein so visionary? Yes, he came up with these equations, these formulas. He was very scientific. And if you haven't seen the series Einstein, I would highly recommend, even if you're not really a fan of Einstein or don't really know Einstein, it was a really well-done series, and I think it's on Netflix. I don't know, it kind of moves around, but I would highly recommend that you watch the Einstein series. It's fascinating to see. They take it all the way from his high school or junior years all the way up through when he passed away. So it's a really great series to watch. You get a real perspective of what Einstein not only accomplished, but what I love about it is the barriers that he went through to accomplish what he wanted to accomplish. And you'll see somebody with unbelievable, what I call relentless vision. Even though he had barriers put in front of him again and again and again, he bursted through those barriers to our benefit, by the way. So Einstein isn't just a visionary leader. He just changed physics like nobody had ever done before. He transformed how humanity sees reality itself. So you know his name. Again, he's this iconic wild-haired photograph everybody knows about, but you truly understand what Einstein made Einstein really a visionary leader who didn't just change physics. Again, he really transformed how humanity sees reality itself. So it was a lot of fun, actually, in the Visionary Leader book. Those of you who haven't read it or haven't purchased the book, I do have it on sale for $199. So hopefully that's something that's not a barrier to entry to purchasing at least the ebook. And hopefully, and I've gotten a lot of great feedback from entrepreneurs, business leaders that have already applied or listened to or read, rather, the Visionary Chronicles. We're actually going to be doing the audiobook as well. That's what I was going to mention later. But Einstein's one of the fun ones. He's quite a character. And Einstein once said, "Learn from yesterday, live for today, hope for tomorrow. The important thing is not to stop questioning." I love that quote from Einstein. Again, it says, "Learn from yesterday, live for today, hope for tomorrow. The important thing is not to stop questioning." I love that because people do stop questioning. I'm sure if you kind of look at yourself in the mirror, you do the same thing. You question a lot of things, but you just don't want to pursue it. Now, the difference between you and Einstein is that Einstein kept asking questions, but he didn't stop asking questions. He continued to ask questions over and over and over again. So really, when you look at Einstein, the success of Einstein, it was much about finding the answers as it was about the questioning itself. If you watch the series, and I'll give you a little bit of an insight with Einstein, which I thought very, very fascinating with him, is that he would talk to himself more than others. He would always be asking questions, almost like somebody was in front of him, and it was a little bit like a sounding board. But it was a sounding board for him that resonated with him as to asking questions over and over and have him think about the questions that he is asking and continually trying to find answers. So it did frustrate him on a few of the equations that he came up with, and it took him a significant amount of time to solve them. But eventually he did. He didn't solve all of them. He had a lot when he passed away that he had in the works. But it was amazing all that he accomplished in the short time that he was here on Earth. So it was that relentless questioning, that refusal to accept what I love is the status quo. It's precisely what separated Einstein from brilliant minds who accepted conventional wisdom. So meaning that there's all kinds of brilliant people out there, but very few of those brilliant people have a vision of how to apply their ideas to reality. And again, I'll say that. There's many brilliant people out there, but they have this conventional wisdom of an idea they have, but not a vision of applying that to reality. You need to have that in everything that you do. So it's really something what I look for when I was profiling all these visionaries in my book was trying to help you in understanding how you can become visionary, but at the same time, understand how other visionaries thought. What was their process? What did they do that was different than normal, let's say, brilliant people who had this conventional wisdom? And Einstein's a profile of that. So imagine this. While his counterparts were, let's just say, content working within this established framework that they had, Einstein was asking the risky questions. And one in particular that sticks out with Einstein that he asked that really disrupted the industry. What he asked was, hey, what if everything we think we know about space and time is wrong? This goes back to Galileo and everything that we're talking about, gravity, whatever it may be. He was questioning everything. Can you imagine going into your work and questioning conventional wisdom of how things should be versus how they can be? Now, I want you to think about that. And too many people don't take that risk, and it's a mistake. If you want to be visionary and you want to be different, you want to be disruptive, you don't want to see things how they are. You want to see things how they can be. So what made Einstein truly visionary wasn't just his intellect, his wisdom. It was his imagination. And when you look at Einstein and the background of Einstein, what I want you to adapt to yourself is the thought process literally of imagination. Thinking of ideas of how your process can be different, how your product can be different, how can it serve your industry different, how can you make things more convenient for your customer. So when you talk about imagination, ideas is one thing, imagination is a completely different thing. People have it, people don't have it, I get it. But he didn't just calculate, he visualized everything. So he had this power of imagination and visualization. So his famous thought experiment that he had, like imagining, and you'll see it in the series. It's interesting because he would see himself in settings as this new world was reality. So he would see himself riding alongside a beam of light. These weren't just clever experiments or exercises that he would do. They really had a meaning behind them. But it was only through his imagination that he could visualize these ideas and how to come up with answers. And by the way, the answers that he came up with, grinding day to day, are, again, what goes back to our reality in our world through Einstein's thought process. So they were a creative foundation for him that led to his revolutionary theories that Einstein had. And what I love about this process is this is where most leaders get it wrong. And if you look yourself in the mirror, including myself, is they rely purely on analysis and data, forgetting that breakthrough innovation requires the courage to imagine what yet doesn't exist. And ask yourself that question. There's a lot in that sentence. Breakthrough, innovation, courage, imagination exist. So again, I'll say this is where leaders get it wrong, including myself many times, is you will rely and I will rely on analysis and data many times. But what we're forgetting is that true breakthrough innovation requires the courage to imagine what doesn't yet exist. So always remember that. If you want to be disruptive, you want to be innovative, you need to understand what yet doesn't exist and how you're going to adapt your company, brand, product, processes, whatever it may be, to satisfy something that doesn't yet exist and create a demand for it in your market. And then you will have a leadership position. But here's what's interesting about Einstein's visionary leadership. And a lot of people kind of wonder, well, where is his visionary leadership? It says he combined radical creativity with unwavering persistence. And I love that because too many times, I've seen it when I work with Liquid Mind in my workshops with leaders on brands, is that persistence, when I put it up on the board, I said, are you persistent? Give me an example of when you were persistent. and resilience, persistence, creativity, imagination. All of these things are up on the board, but very few people possess them. They just don't want to do the grind. And as a result of that, you have no breakthroughs. You have no innovation. You have no disruption. So when he introduced his theory of relativity, the scientific establishment didn't just disagree. They thought he was completely crazy. He was wrong. And if you go back to what he was dealing with, when he asked the question, and this is where you'll come up with resistance and barriers inside of your work, is when you come up with questions to conventional thinking. What he was saying is, what if everything we think about or know about space and time is wrong? So it's literally like you coming into your company. What if it's everything we know about our product is wrong? What if everything we know about our service is wrong? What you're asking is, hey, I don't think it's bad, but this isn't working. How do we change it? How do we be disruptive? So he had this creativity with unwavering persistence. So they thought he was crazy or wrong when he came up with this. Yet Einstein persisted, not out of stubborn pride, but because his vision, his imagination was so clear, so compelling, that he couldn't abandon it. And when the evidence finally caught up with his theories, it didn't just validate his work. It revolutionized our understanding of energy, mass, space, time itself. Can you imagine that? The complexity around his thoughts and what he came up with. But that's one thing. This is Einstein. But what's beautiful about Einstein is that you can apply these things to your day-to-day and what you're doing in your work. Einstein's approach teaches us that true visionary leadership requires what I call elegant simplicity. The ability to take incredibly complex ideas and distill them into something profound yet accessible. Again, I'll say Einstein's approach teaches us that true visionary leadership, the ones that have the imagination, the ones that have the creativity, the ones that have the persistence, requires what I call elegant simplicity. Do not complicate things. I'll go back to Steve. Simple is sophisticated. The ability to take incredibly complex ideas and to distill them into something profound yet accessible. His equation, E equals MC squared, isn't just a formula. It's poetry written in mathematics. It's crazy how simple it is. Expressing the fundamental relationship between energy and matter in just 5 characters. It's amazing. The simplicity behind that. You know, that's the power, what I see of visionary thinking and why he's in the book as a visionary leader. Generational visionary leader. I go all the way back to Socrates on 17 different visionary leaders that have walked the earth over the centuries. So that's the power of visionary thinking. Finding the simple truth hidden within complexity. Don't make things complex, no matter even how. Here's probably the most sophisticated formula ever to be devised, and it's 5 characters. Think of the Gettysburg Address, 300 words from Abraham Lincoln. Greatest speech ever given. Simple is sophisticated. You don't need to overthink disruption. You just need to have the vision, the persistence, creativity to ensure that it becomes realized. And perhaps most importantly is that Einstein understood that vision without purpose is just, he was kindly saying, intellectual nonsense, basically saying it's bullshit. So when Einstein vision without purpose is just intellectual nonsense. So his work extended really far beyond the laboratory. He was a true advocate for peace, civil rights, social justice. And again, if you go to the series, you'll see all kinds of this blended into Einstein's life. I would be here for hours trying to explain not only Einstein's creativity, his imagination, his disruption, his personal life, his inventions, his formulas, everything that he's done. But what he was an advocate for was peace, civil rights, social justice, recognizing that true visionary leaders use their gifts not just to understand the world, but to make it better. Keep that in mind as well when you're looking at, does it make our world better? That's a critical question to ask yourself as well when you're talking about visionary thinking and also innovation and disruption. So let's talk about some concrete examples of Einstein's visionary thinking. Some of these things that he accomplished in his lifetime, which is very short relative to what he accomplished. And his accomplishments weren't just theoretical, they fundamentally changed our world of how we live today. The first was special theory of relativity, which basically revolutionized our understanding of space and time. Introducing that famous 5-letter formula, E equals mc squared. Equation that expressed the equivalence of mass and energy, laying the groundwork for nuclear power and quantum mechanics. I don't understand all this, but I know it makes our world better and more efficient and more effective. And the second was the general theory of relativity, which he was able to develop a formula for 10 years later, which described gravity as a curvature of space-time caused by mass and energy, a theory that remains foundational even today in modern physics and has been confirmed through countless experiments. That's the other thing with Einstein as well, is he was constantly challenged while he was alive. And today they're even validated, and with all the technology we have today, they're still validated. The third was photoelectric effect. What this did is it demonstrated that light behaves both as a wave and particle. It provided crucial evidence for quantum mechanics and earning him a Nobel Prize. And then he had the Brownian motion analysis, which proved the existence of atoms and molecules by explaining the erratic movement of particles in fluid, supporting atomic theory when many still doubted atoms exist. Now I know some of these are kind of boring, you're kind of rolling your eyes a little bit, but it's amazing all the things that he actually founded and formulas around that didn't exist before Einstein proved them out. And the next is mass energy equivalence, showing that mass and energy are interchangeable, leading directly to nuclear energy development. And then Einstein field equations. It created a mathematical foundation for general relativity through 10 interrelated equations that describe how matter and energy curve space-time. Again, it's a little over my head as well, I get it. But I just want you to understand the amount of sophistication that Einstein had going through his head on a day-to-day basis. And the barriers that were in front of him, things that never existed. So the big thing I want you to understand with Einstein is he was finding things that never existed and why people thought he was crazy in his equations and what he was pulling together. So these weren't just academic achievements. They were contributions to humanity's future, whether you understand them or not. They laid the groundwork for technologies we rely on today and opening doors we're still walking through today. So what can we learn? I always talk with these visionaries, now what can we learn after doing this research with Einstein? What can we learn from Einstein's visionary leadership? It's really a question I put and pose in the book as well. Is first, number one is never stop questioning. That was a real cornerstone of Einstein's brilliance. He never stopped questioning, especially when everyone else has stopped questioning. That's his persistence that nobody else had. He had the vision, he had the creativity, the imagination, and the persistence. Very few, if anybody, have that. Second is combine rigorous thinking with bold imagination, no matter what you do as a leader. Thinking, imagination, creativity, all of these things are cornerstones of visionary leaders. And Einstein had every one of these. And the third is, please have the courage to stick your neck out, to stand alone with your vision until the world catches up. You're going to be criticized. You're going to be blasted. You're going to be questioned. But if you believe in your vision and that it will make our world a better place, and I'm not saying don't overthink it. Making our world a better place is a product. Making our better world a better place is a service. Making our world a better place is a better process. So, and finally, remember that visionary leadership isn't just about personal glory. It's about using your unique perspective to serve something greater than yourself. This is humility. You may have a vision, but it's going to take a team to execute that vision and either bring it to market or commercialize it. So again, visionary leadership isn't about personal glory. So if you're up there on the stand telling everybody what a great person you are, Einstein was the most humble visionary leader in the book. He never took credit for anything, nor did he want credit. His sole purpose was to make this world a better place and discover things that hadn't been discovered. Think of that as a vision. So thank you for tuning into the Visionary Chronicles. Hopefully you've got a little bit of insight into how Einstein thought and how you can apply some of his visionary leadership skills to your day-to-day. And next time we'll explore another visionary leader who took these similar principles and applied them to building one of the world's most influential companies. So until then, keep questioning, keep imagining, and remember the future belongs to those bold enough to envision it first. So if this episode, and I always say, if this episode resonated with you, I encourage you to grab a copy of The Visionary Leader, The Success Principles of the World's Greatest Visionaries. It's available across all distribution outlets. It's available now. Wherever books are sold, there's the shameless plug for the book. It's a perfect companion for if you're looking to reignite your purpose or lead with more clarity in a complex world and understand how others have done it. So wherever you purchase the book, again, I would recommend, if you just want to try it out, not make a big investment. The ebook is available on Amazon today for $1.99. And as a thank you, that's what we're leaving the price at to those loyal podcast listeners. And this book really is a culmination of decades of research, experiences, real-world insights that I've had into what makes leaders like Steve Jobs, Leonardo da Vinci, Elon Musk truly visionary. And once you've read it, and again, I'm doing this not selfishly, but wanting this to get into the hands of as many visionary leaders as possible, or entrepreneurs that are struggling, leaders that need some type of direction. So once you've read it, I'd really be grateful if you would just take a moment to leave an honest review on Amazon. It really helps with the reach of the book, and it also helps getting it into other countries. So it helps with future visionaries, finding their clarity, confidence, courage, whatever it may be. Your support means the world to me and hopefully to others. If you were in my shoes getting these compliments I'm getting from the book and how they've applied it to helping them with direction in the context of trying to figure out what their purpose is in their company or them personally, it's really rewarding. So I would really appreciate it if you could take a few minutes, if you do read the book, to leave a review. So your support means the world to me, as always, as your time does. And your purchase goes a long way in helping us spread that vision even further. So again, thank you for tuning into the Visionary Chronicles, where the future is created by those bold enough to shape it. Until next time, again, keep innovating, keep leading, keep shaping the future. Thank you for your continued support of the Visionary Chronicles, and I look forward to hearing from you soon. As I always say, stay true, stay authentic, be different, and be great, but enjoy the journey along the way. Have a great day, and I look forward to the next Visionary Chronicles.